Hey everyone, and welcome to the Foundry by Forge College. Today, we're going to be constructing the ultimate theoretical blueprint for smart wallets. Now, if you've been buried in the code lately, tracing transactions, and frankly feeling like you're permanently lost in the weeds, just take a deep breath. This explainer is exactly what you need to pull back and actually see the entire architectural map. We're going to build a clean, conceptual framework that will honestly change the way you look at Web3 infrastructure forever.
But first, let's be totally honest for a second here. Are you still having literal nightmares about opaque paymaster rejections, or maybe waking up in a cold sweat thinking about validation hook failures? I know, we definitely triggered a little PTSD from our previous lesson debugging account abstraction flows. You spent hours diagnosing ERC 4337 validation failures, which, as you know, is the core standard making smart wallets possible, just trying to figure out exactly why a user operation was rejected. It was messy, it was frustrating, but it was necessary. Today, though, I promise you we're moving out of that messy reality of code-level debugging and stepping into the elegant, crystal-clear solution of conceptual theory. This framework is going to make all those messy errors suddenly make perfect, logical sense.
Okay, let's dive into our agenda for this explainer. First, bounding the wallet. Second, the wallet OS metaphor. Third, weighing architecture trade-offs. And finally, number 4, your capstone mapping prep. Starting off with Section 1, bounding the smart wallet and its core responsibilities.
Before we can build anything, we really have to define our terms. So what exactly is a smart wallet? Well, conceptually, it's a programmable on-chain account that takes validation, policy, and recovery logic, rips it out of the external signer, and drops it right into contract-level code. And, that separation, that is the absolute magic trick here. Think back to those validation phases that were failing on you previously. Why did they fail? Because the wallet contract itself was actively rejecting the operation based on its own programmed logic, not just because a private key signed a transaction incorrectly. We are essentially unbundling the traditional Ethereum account and moving the brain directly onto the blockchain. So every smart wallet, no matter how wild or complex it gets, fundamentally handles 3 complementary responsibilities. Think of this as the holy trinity of wallet design. Number 1 is authority. Who or what is actually allowed to sign and authorize an action? Number 2 is policy. What are the rules? Are we looking at rate limits, multisig requirements, or maybe session constraints? And number 3 is persistence. What critical state actually needs to live permanently on chain? Things like nonces, guardian lists, or metastate. Honestly, when you look at any smart wallet out there, if you can just identify how it handles authority, policy, and persistence, you've completely demystified the whole thing.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how the concrete code elements you were debugging last time map so perfectly onto these clean theoretical roles. The signer? Yeah, that's pure authority. That validation policy you fought with for hours? That's your policy. Your recovery module? That beautifully blends policy and persistence. And the paymaster? That external service covering your gas fees that just kept rejecting your sponsored operations? That sits entirely external to the wallet's internal authority. By mapping the messy real-world code to these conceptual buckets, you immediately understand exactly why a specific element might be failing.
Moving right along to Section 2, the Wallet OS, a tiny operating system.
Okay, listen, if you take away just one concept from this entire explainer, make it this. Think of a smart wallet as a tiny operating system running directly on-chain. It's not just a dumb vault holding tokens anymore. It's a full-blown computing environment. And this metaphor is incredibly powerful because operating systems deal with the exact same problems we face in account abstraction. We're talking separation of privileges, upgrade boundaries, composability, the whole shebang. When you start viewing the wallet as an OS, the architecture suddenly makes total sense to anyone who understands even basic computer science.
Let's see how this builds out the OS architecture layer by layer. Step 1 is your kernel. In our Web3 world, the kernel is the core wallet contract and its base validation hooks. It handles the absolute most privileged system calls. Step 2 brings us to user space modules. Just like adding software to your computer, you add modules for account recovery or temporary session keys. They plug right into the kernel, but they don't rewrite it. Finally, step 3 is your external daemons. These are those background processes running outside the core, your relayers and paymasters. They interact with your OS through well-defined interfaces, paying for your gas or bundling your transactions, without ever actually owning your core authority. It's pretty brilliant.
To make this super actionable, we can break this OS metaphor down into 4 critical axes. Just think of this as your universal go-to checklist. 1. The authority surface. Basically, who holds the keys to the kernel? 2. The policy enforcement layer. Where do the rules actually run? Are they on-chain or off-chain? 3. The persistent surface. What heavy data are we permanently storing? And 4. The integration surface. How does our OS talk to the daemons, the paymasters, the relayers? As you continue learning with the courses and programs here at Forge College, whenever you encounter a brand new wallet, you just run it through these 4 axes and you'll instantly understand its architectural fingerprint.
And this brilliantly illustrates the point. Let's compare 2 totally different scenarios to see this in practice. Scenario A is a mobile-first, passwordless wallet. Its OS design requires a broad authority surface. Maybe it's using social recovery guardians and a mixed policy layer where some checks happen off-chain just to give you a smoother user experience. Contrast that with Scenario B, an enterprise multisig holding millions of dollars in treasury funds. Now, its OS demands a narrow, highly restricted authority surface and a strict 100% on-chain policy enforcement layer for absolute auditability. It's the exact same underlying OS theory, just completely different architectural implementations based on their specific needs.
Which brings us to Section 3, weighing architectural trade-offs and finding that balance. The biggest fundamental tug-of-war in smart wallet design is between on-chain and off-chain logic. If you cram heavy logic on-chain, you get incredible verifiability and composability. Literally, everyone can see the rules, and other smart contracts can interact with them trustlessly. But the trade-off? Well, you're going to pay way higher gas fees, and you've just massively increased your smart contract attack surface. On the flip side, pushing that logic off-chain gives you a sleek Web 2-like user experience and drastically lowers your costs. But the trade-off there, you sacrifice those ironclad cryptographic on-chain guarantees. You are effectively trading ultimate security for ultimate convenience.
Let's break down the 3 main flavors of architectural patterns here. First up, we have minimal architecture. It's basically a super thin wrapper. Advantage, very low cost. Trade-off, a pretty limited user experience. Second, we have modular architecture, which is our wallet OS approach. Advantage, it is the absolute sweet spot for composability. Trade-off, you're looking at moderate costs and complexity. Third is monolithic architecture. This is all your features crammed into one giant contract. Advantage, incredibly seamless UX. Trade-off, massive audit risk and absolute upgrade nightmares. Now, why do you need to know this? Because predicting the architecture directly predicts the debugging friction. A monolithic wallet failing is going to throw very different, much more opaque errors than a modular one.
Finally, let's look at Section 4, Capstone Mapping Prep. Okay, so as you prepare your final course deliverable for the capstone, here is your essential checklist. You need to look at the wallets you've studied and do 4 specific things. 1. Explicitly separate where the authority lives versus where the policy is enforced. 2. Pinpoint exactly where the critical state is located. Is it sitting in the kernel or is it in a module? 3. Identify the upgrade mechanisms. How does this particular OS actually get a patch? And 4. Use your debugging notes to trace those opaque failure modes back to their conceptual roots. Did a policy module fail, or did an external daemon, like a paymaster, drop the ball?
So, the crucial point is this. Your deliverable is going to be a 1-page conceptual mapping for each wallet you've examined. I want you to bridge the gap between those raw, frustrating code traces you dealt with earlier and this high-level, beautiful synthesis we've been talking about. Map every single wallet using our OS template. Identify its kernel, list out its user space modules, and define its external daemons. This single page is going to be your proof that you truly understand how account abstraction architecture operates at scale. I want to leave you with a quick challenge. Think back to the absolute most frustrating wallet implementation you debugged in the last lesson. Take a moment right now. How does it fit into this OS model? Which module was actually throwing the error that kept you up at night? Applying this conceptual blueprint to your real-world frustrations is exactly where true mastery begins. Keep pushing, keep mapping, and always remember that building robust mental models is the mark of a truly great Web3 engineer. To dive deeper into these concepts and explore more of our incredible learning paths, be sure to visit forge.college. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will catch you in the next one.